should have brought you files, Pat.
Okay, we have one signed up to speak, Mr. Richard Merrick. If you would go to the podium, please, state your name and address.
You may be here, sorry to interrupt, Mayor, you may be here for the next item. If you want to.
Oh, is that the item?
For item number 5, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. All right, so we'll go on to, we can go on consent agenda, right, as planned? Okay. All right, the consent agenda, you'll notice a little statement there, maybe a little bit different what we've done in the past, but you have items 2, 3, and 4 under the consent agenda. If there's a council member who wants to take one particularly, just let me know. If not, we will pass the consent agenda by general consent. What is the council's pleasure?
I move to approve take all 4.
Everybody in agreement? Any objections to that? Okay, items 2, 3, and 4 on the consent agenda are considered passed. Now, item number 5.
Sorry.
What?
You do need a motion and a second.
We still need a motion and a second? We can't general consent
So
that?
you have a motion.
Oh, okay. So we'll need a second.
Second it.
We have a motion now and a second. This motion is still debatable, amendable, requires a majority vote. I'm sorry, I got that from TML training. This could be too much training. Who knows?
Yeah, the verbiage that I put up there is so that if you had one particular item, if you had a list of 6 and there was one that you wanted to discuss further, you could approve the remaining amount and come back and discuss that one item.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor of passing consent agendas, item 2, 3, and 4, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. And now, consent agenda is passed, items 2, 3, and 4. All right, my apologies. Item number 5 is presentation of a proposed 80-acre single-family residential development by Pulte Homes.
Mayor and council, you've seen there has been talk, it's easy as week to the conversation that the council did see the feasibility study on this just a couple weeks ago, a month ago. Mr. Richard Merrick is from Pulte here, he's part of the development team, and is going to just provide an overview.
Byron, ask him to repeat his name.
Can you repeat your name?
Richard Marek, M-A-R-E-K.
M-A-R-E-K.
Sorry about that, Richard.
Well, like I said, we're with Pulte Homes. We're a third largest home builder in the country. We put this tract, this is the Mabry tract, we put it on the contract some months ago. Look for the next. Go one more. That's the location. It's the 80 acres on the east side of 1097, north 1097, going out of town, this Mabry tract. You can see it's got Terra Vista Waterstone on the west side of it, and north of the Waterstone and Lake Conroe development. The 2 yellow lines are easements that we need to acquire. One's a drainage easement, one water and wastewater. We've been in contact with Mr. T. Bowman, and we'll end up getting the easement, so there's no issues there. That's our land plan. What we want to do is 45 by 120 foot lots. There are 309 lots in this development. As you can see, we've got a recreation park area. We'll have wet detention. When you look on the west side, the sort of drainage areas, that creek that's going through there is a jurisdictional wetland, and we're not going to touch it. Okay, so that area, you'll have tree cover along the west side and then along the 1097 frontage, and we'll have our entry monumentation there all the way to the sort of the north end of the project. That'll be natural. So, community amenities. We have budgeted with sort of entry and amenities $3 million. And we'll have, for instance, we'll have a pool, sidewalks, walking trails, let's say entry monumentation. May want to go to the next slide. That's sort of the pool area. You've got the covered area, and you've got the playground area. trees, barbecue pits, parking, pool. If you can read that, sort of the small writing there, your eyes are better than mine, so like you said. Brian's here with us, he might want to describe it.
Yes, I'm sorry, let me introduce myself. My name is Brian Williams. I'm also with Richard. I'm on the development side. I'm the director of land development for Pulte, and this will be a community that I'm going to be overseeing the construction of. So you're probably seeing a lot more of me than Richard once this thing. I'll have a lot longer relationship between the two of us. I have some cars. I'll hang them out before I'll leave, just so we can get in touch. But so this is just a general conceptual amenity. We're trying to obviously if this is actually taken from another one of our projects on the northwest side of Houston that we're about to go under construction, and really just trying to give a real community feel, sense of pride in the ownership of the community to the residents. Even if there's 200 residents, that's fine. 300 residents, whatever. We want them to have that impact, and that's very, very important to the Pulte group. So we're excited to bring something like this to Montgomery. Absolutely.
That's just some more pictures of the rec center, from the aerial shot. That is some sort of entry monumentation from other developments. We haven't decided what we're going to do here. Literally the same nature of these. Nice looking and long lasting. Next. That's just a picture of the parks and trails, playground equipment, trails, sidewalks, how we dress up the attention, slash drainage areas, the trees and whatnot. They'll be manicured and kept nice. Next one. This is the plan lineup. The products we're going to be doing out here are 1,400, 2,600 square feet. 3 sides brick on the bottom floor. If the buyer wants to add more brick on the front, that's an option if they can handle. So we can go through, spend a little time on it. This is everything, and it's stone front. Like I say, 3 sides brick.
Did you want to mention that? I just noticed that I moved to the 40 foot.
Yeah, it's a wider product is all it is. It's just a wider product. Same square footage, we just lay a wider product, lays out a little different. We have a little wider slab to lay things out. So, but still it's the same, sort of a 3 sides brick, 1 story.
Richard, could I ask you, on the 40-foot product and on a 45-foot lot, how do you guys?
Well, the 40-foot product is actually, it's a 30-foot, the 40-foot product is a 30-foot slab. Okay? So you'll have, 3 on each side, 7.5 feet.
Okay, so we're not, looking at 5 foot on either side. When we look at a 40-foot product and thinking 45-foot
Yeah.
lots, that's a good thing to clarify.
You don't think 5 foot is much, but it is, between houses, to say the least.
How much did you say was between the houses?
7.5. 7.5 on each side, okay, so 15 feet.
But are all of them, this whole development looks similar to Hills of Town Street on the west side where I live. And I noticed, looking at mine in the cul-de-sac, mine goes down into the 30s, 39 around the cul-de-sac. And then when you hit the straightaways, they're all 50s.
Yeah.
So is that similar, the locations?
You'll have a similar situation here, where you got a pie-shaped lot, okay, that setback, at the right-of-way line is gonna be narrower, at that setback, it's gotta be 45 feet plus, okay, to sit the house on it, so yes. We'll have, substantial community amenities, including a pool. We'll have 2-car garages with 2-car driveways for every home, where you can put 2 cars in the driveway, wide enough for 2. You'll be surprised. And at full build-out, we'll be asking for annexation in the city. At full build-out, at your tax rate, that's $400,000 a year in perpetual property tax income to the city. Utilities, obviously, Montgomery utilities will have on-site lift station, force main, gravity sewer, internal water, and then internal storm sewer system. What the sort of the next steps for us, we wanted to obviously meet and show you what our project is. We will be wanting to enter into a development agreement with the city that allows for this size lots. Any other sort of builder, developer items that you would have in a development agreement with the city. Mrs. Mabry has already signed the petition for annexation, and she's already signed the consent for the mud creation. She's the current owner. We have it under contract, and we'll be closing after we get approval to buy the tract. So, why Pulte? Good question. We're the third largest builder in the nation. We have 70 years experience. We have superior construction standards with a dedicated water department. The Houston division is the highest rated Pulte division in the country for quality and customer experience in the nation. That's our HOA is going to be professionally managed. Our price points, we're going to be in the low to mid 300s. I would say right now low 300s across the board. I mean, you'll have varying prices. That's kind of what it'll average out. Nice 2-car garages, build up value at those price points are right at 96 million. And Hill Country front elevations with stone options for every house. Tree buffer at the entry and at the drainage channel and the lake detention area to the minute. So that's, I think that's it. I don't think I know anything else. Yeah. And that's sort of location again and sort of summary. Any questions?
I've read all kinds of articles and research on this thing for several days, even talked to one of the new council members over there in Conroe with the issues that they're having and going back and forth on it. And every single time it comes back to your market. You build houses with the expectations there's a market for these houses, better so than maybe other types of build outs. Am I right with that? Because I talk to real estate people, I talk to others. This one agrees, this one disagrees, but in the end, can you sell the home? And that to me is you wouldn't build it if there wasn't a market for these types of houses.
Yeah. We're out there to build houses, sell them. That's our business. So we have a national marketing team, local marketing team. So we know what all other builders are, what the area statistics are, and we know what's going to sell. And like I say, these $300,000 houses, they're not inexpensive houses by any means.
No, they're not.
Again, the purpose here tonight was one to introduce you to the Pulte group and tell you a little more about the product. But again, the affirmation I think that we're looking for is to be able to kind of continue working and to be able to kind of, I guess, button up the last details of the development agreement and things to be able to bring back to council for consideration. But this is the time, and any feedback or anything else, again, there's no formal action on the item. It's just to share feedback both with them and with us.
Does any of the city staff anticipate any issues, lift station or infrastructure in any way moving forward?
It's not included in their development agreement. So, feasibility study was, as Rich mentioned, putting on the internal infrastructure and also the cost of upgrading lift station 10 and those improvements. That's how the development agreement is drafted, is that those are costs that they would bear to do that. So, I think the main question, the main difference between this development and a lot of developments in the city is the 45-foot lot. So really, if there's questions or concerns about the 45s, that's, what these guys are here to talk about, and the product that they're putting on there, which they showed you, kind of what the spacing is between those houses to help kind of get the clarity, because that is, one of the items in the development agreement is putting in there about the lot size. And so we want to, and obviously that, if the 45-foot is not something that is, going to be, okay to move forward with, that changes their lane plan, that changes a lot of items. So really, getting, obviously this isn't approval, but getting feedback and general consensus on the lot size, because, you know, the smallest lots, Terra Vista, are 50-foot lots, Hills and Montgomery are 50-foot lots. So again, it's different. Again, not saying it's a good or bad thing, I'm saying it is smaller than what you have existing.
Chris, was that 45, get them at 309?
Correct. So the land plan is in flux. I mean, there's always, you know, tweaks and updating, but right now I think they're at, this is the most recent, so the 45-foot lots would be 309, or excuse me, yeah, the 45-foot lots would give them 309 units. And when we did the feasibility study, we were at 285, 286, that 15 home, 10 home difference. It's not that. 20 home difference is not that. It doesn't move the needle that for 20 homes over the entire system.
When will this be going to P and Z?
This plat, so we presented the feasibility study to the P&Z to look them in on it. The first time that the P&Z sees this is the preliminary plat phase, plat part. So one of the reasons that we wanted to start, you know, going with them with the feasibility studies is because of all these conversations that happened, you know, over the course of several months. But then P&Z, we don't want them to feel like they're late to the party or that the party just started, but it's really been going on for, you know, several months worth of conversation. So.
Council have any other questions?
So this area is not on our development plan because it's outside the city limits, is that right? So we don't know if it's high density or that area?
Plan, I think, I would, without knowing for sure, I feel like it probably is, because that's when we were talking to the last.
I can pull it up while we sit here, but the future land use plan, I believe, did extend to the ETJ at that time, a few years ago. And at that time, the general consensus was the lower density, larger lots toward the center, and the higher density toward the periphery.
Okay.
And so I need to look at this tract specifically, but if I recall correctly, this was in the higher density, which, you know, it's not a defined term, but the general idea was that something less than your 75-foot lot.
Okay.
Council, any others?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Move on to item number 6, discussion of possible action authorizing city staff and consultants to coordinate with Nantucket Housing LLC, HCR Ventures, regarding development and annexation agreements for a proposed 33-acre multifamily residential development.
Mayor and Council, you see this item here before you. We've talked about this one as well. This feasibility study was presented right about the same time. This is the piece of property that's located just behind, just to the north of the Pizza Shack. It's about a 33-acre tract, about half is in the floodplain. And as we have spoken with the developers or the potential developers and their team, we'd like, I guess, to know what the direction of the council is. Are you guys comfortable with us moving forward with discussions? Again, this one is outside of the city, much like the one we saw here, so an annexation agreement is going to be part of it. A development agreement will be needed because there will be utility extensions that will be developer funded. It won't be a city item that they have to extend, but so there'll be a couple of agreements, and we'd like to get the consensus from. I think I've heard just offhand a couple, you know, I wouldn't say, you know, positive comments, just not negative comments. And you know, I've heard them talk about the place behind Brookshire's, the Heritage Apartments, and those, you know, seeming to be well received in the community. And again, this is the same group, and what the engineers and I were looking for is just the direction from council to continue those talks with them to be able to bring something back to you.
This is not one of those housing developments that they have to have permission from the
That's right.
city.
That's right, they are not
Like
going for any tax credits.
They were going to do once upon a time on
That's
Lone
right.
Star Parkway.
That's right. Both of those projects were funded under the state or federal tax credits, which,
Yes.
as a reminder, most of the, or just as a side note, most of the tax credit comes from your local taxes. So departments don't need kind of, I guess, the resolution from the city
Right.
that says that the city supports the project.
Do you know where their closest project is to Montgomery? Other than,
Other than the Brookshires one, I'm not
Brookshire.
sure. I know they're out on, generally the west side of Houston, but I think but I don't know where they're, where another project would be close, but I can sure find out. And I know and I'm again very active on the west side of Houston. I think it's their general business area.
But it's supposed to mirror what's behind Brookshire's very much, isn't it?
In terms of quality, fit and finish, I would expect it to, yes, ma'am.
I think the last that I checked, the 55 and up part behind Brookshire still has over a year waiting list. And again, it speaks to market that's there. It speaks to the fact that when we get older, we want to downsize and not pay all the property taxes or whatever. But yeah, there seems to be a need.
And I think that's a good point that I failed to mention. It is a multifamily project. About half of it is dedicated to senior living. Again, there's no tax credits with that. It's just age restricted. And then half is just regular market rate.
and the entrance and exit on that narrow street is, that's with the county? Is that right?
So the county would be approving that curb cut there for them on Stewart Creek Road.
I haven't had to drive that street in a couple of years, but I know when school starts, it's a major to-do there. So with the other subdivision and then all the school and
That's the question I wondered about, that water part along Stewart Creek Road and how that times out with traffic, because you know that is a heavy traffic area, people waiting to go to both of those schools back there. So whatever we do, let's time it friendly with that. I didn't know how fast that was ready to proceed, but there is the water line work there, right? That's part of this whole deal.
Right.
12-inch lines and whatnot. I know sometimes we don't get that from the county, but hopefully our city can consider these things when you start digging that type of thing. Any other discussion? Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to authorize staff and consultants to coordinate with the developer as necessary.
Second.
Second by Cheryl. Motion's debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. All in favor to authorize staff and consultants to coordinate with this developer as necessary, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. And the motion carries. Item number 7, consideration and possible action of authorizing the city engineer to begin work on the McCown and Caroline Street waterline replacement project.
Mayor and Council, this project downtown, if you guys will, actually, I'm going to turn it over to Chris here very shortly, but just will suffice it to say that along McCown, there's been a 4-inch water line for a number of years, and so this project, as the EDC gets ready to look at the design of the streetscape and the service, we also advise anything I discussed before, that it would be good to replace the underground stuff before we get into the top side work. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chris and let him kind of go through the details.
So thank you. So you'll see, it's not in your packet, but it was handed out at the beginning of the meeting, an exhibit to show the scope of what this project entails. So again, as Dave said, really the catalyst for this is the downtown improvement. So what we don't want to do is MDC and the city spend a bunch of funds to upgrade the streetscapes, to then have a utility underground, have issues, and be tearing up something that's new. So, this is looking at the layout of downtown. What you see in green is the proposed replacement limits. Again, it's larger than the scope of the McCown improvements that are being done, but it's going ahead and getting to kind of major confluence points, because in future phases of the downtown improvements, it continues to work its way out from this point. And so it just kind of made sense to finish off, get to the intersections as good stopping points. So that's what's shown in here. What's in your packet that you'll see is a kind of a breakdown of what's included or what it would take to complete the work. One big thing to note on both the construction and the engineering costs is this project is going to be going concurrently with the downtown improvements. So as kind of both of those projects start coming through fruition through design, the timing of these projects and how they're actually executed will be looking into what makes the most sense overall from a cost savings. You know, what we don't want to do is we go put in the water line, repair all the asphalt that was ripped up to put in the water line, and then tear up asphalt a month later to do the streetscape improvement. So it's timing those two out. You know, the way that it was put in here is kind of, you know, this is a completely standalone project. There is an option, there is a chance that as we get down that road, that this becomes almost incorporated into the same contract, construction contract with the downtown improvements. Because again, then you have the contractor that's already going to be doing digging work, go ahead, replace the water line, and do the surface kind of at the same time. So it's written here as a standalone, but the intent is that they both, you know, go through the design process concurrently, and that coordination happens to see, okay, what makes the most sense? Does it make the most sense to complete the project, and as soon as it's done is when the contractor starts for the next, or do them as the same project? That's to be determined and reflected in here. So the estimated costs for the project as a whole between contingencies, engineering, and reimbursable expenses, approximately $364,000. To do that, there's a pretty high contingency number because again, the survey work is still going, and also what the final design is, if more of this is going to have to be done by trenchless to preserve some items versus not, which is why there's a little bit higher contingency number. And again, as we go through the project, we'll keep the number up to date, keep you all up to date on what that budget amount is.
Chris, what was the reason for the high contingency number?
Two reasons. One is the survey is underway, so knowing exactly where all these items are to change what the potential design could be. Also, really when looking close to the community center, the already improved intersection with the star in the wall and how we route around that area, we might have to use more trenchless methods that are more expensive due to what's going to stay in the project. And until we know where everything lays out with the plot point in the survey, we just don't know yet where that is. And the other thing is, right now, construction prices are all over the board. We're seeing, hopefully this is a conservative number, but depending on what happens, construction prices are bouncing around. For example, Clipper sidewalks came in really good. We had 7 bidders, right under budget. But we're hearing that other places, these water and sewer projects are going in, and it's, recently we heard a project was estimated at 2.8 million, it came in at 3.7. So, substantial differences, and it's changing.
Again, the research is going to have to change because the research I says for 5 to 10% contingency, but you have to put 20 in there and hold your breath on that.
Right.
And one thing to point out on the preliminary cost estimate is that's not being considered for approval, it's just a preliminary cost estimate.
Yep.
What you would be approving would be the design work.
Design.
So the 364 in the cost, or 364,000 in the cost estimate is not something that you guys are spending tonight or acting on tonight. It's the approval of the design fees and the authorization for the design.
Those contracts, are they the same one that did the Pond Street line?
We're not there at that point yet.
Okay.
So the Neary Construction was the one who did the construction on Pond. They're going to be open to bid the project. It'll be publicly bid when we get to that point. But there's no.
And this line, when you start working on it, it's going to affect all the businesses downtown?
Yes, and that's a big line item on here. I mean, we have $25,000 for setting up a temporary water line, hooking everyone up, completing the work, taking the temporary water line down. Between that and then reconnecting everybody, that is, almost $45,000 between those two items.
And we'll be able to knock on these doors and let them know, right?
Right.
What would be the time frame that they would be?
So our estimate on as far as construction time is approximately 90 days to.
No, I was going to say, what would be the time frame from the time that they were, their service was interrupted till the time it was restored?
It's going to be immediate. So the process would be is they would set up the temporary water line and have it ready. So you'd have both water lines on at the same time, then go down the street, connect everyone to the temporary one, then take the old one out of service and replace it, and then reverse the process. Go back in, once it's ready, connect everyone to the new line, and then take the temporary line out of service.
Now,
So with the time of 90 days, again, knowing what Christmas is for us, you'll be able to have it before we do parades and stuff?
Well, again, I think, the actual construction of this, where, is probably going to be the first of the year before it goes to construction. And it's also going to be in conjunction with the downtown improvement. So both of those, considering the downtown festivals, the Christmas events and all those things, I think, last time we talked about this, kind of once we got past the first of the year, we have a little bit of a break before, kind of the spring festival and event, really starts kicking off again. So kind of aiming toward that timeline to get this work complete. And again, it's going to be coordinated as much with the downtown improvements as it can be.
Okay.
all right.
Anyone have a motion?
Motion to authorize city engineer to begin work on the McCowan and Caroline Street water line replacement project.
There's a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion by TJ, second by Carol. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. All in favor of item number 7 as stated? Well, let me go ahead and state it. Motion to authorize the city engineer to begin work on the McCown and Caroline Street water line replacement project. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. And the motion carries. Item number 8, consideration and possible action on authorizing the city engineer to begin work on the downtown sanitary sewer rehabilitation project.
Right. Very similar to the last item, same concept of getting the sewer lines fixed before the street repairs are done. So if you flip to page 41 of your packets, you'll see an exhibit, and I'll talk from that. So this is based on the televising project that you all completed. So you're in the process of completing. So we reviewed those videos and the recommended repairs that are shown on here between the manholes, some actual dig down repairs of the line, and then a lining project to seal up those lines and completely rehab them from start to finish. This project, we looked at coupling it with the water line. The reason we decoupled it is it's very different type of work. So with this being, a handful of digging repairs, and then it's a lining project, which is a specialized process that a normal, water and sewer utility contractor doesn't do, which is why these are being proposed as 2 separate projects. And this one wouldn't be as tied to the downtown improvements, as when you look at the X's on the screen, there are relatively few spots of actual dig work. So they would dig down in that section, repair the pipe, and then restore that to asphalt or gravel or whatever there today, which is why they're decoupled. A couple other things to note is, just like the water line, we extended the scope a little bit to get well out of the area of downtown, to get down to 105 and over the Prairie. The lines on McCowan themselves, the lining, it wasn't it was close. So, they're all clay pipe, which is older pipe, it's brittle, and it tends to crack and break. So putting in these liners help prevent that. So again, even though, the line is okay today, minus most of these points, minus the one on Prairie, which is in bad shape, our recommendation is still to go ahead and line those. So again, you have a complete structural repair of the pipe all the way underneath the scope of the project of the improvements. So again, you're not, replacing a couple feet and a couple years later, you have a higher chance of another failure. So estimated cost of this project, flipping back to page 40 of your packet, it's approximately $182,000. This one's going to be, it's quicker to put together as we have the data, so it's put together a bid package and solicit bids for it, or advertise for bids. So that is in there. Contingency is a little bit lower. Again, just like the last kind of conversation, you know, prices are a little all over the place. You know, these liners are it's a fiberglass liner. They use a resin, so it's very susceptible to material increases. And so we're, again, keeping it updated. These are, we just bid a project not too long ago down the street. So these are as updated as we can have for this point.
Is it all 8-inch or 8-6?
It's 8 and 6. So right now it's a 6 on Prairie, and then it's 8 that goes through downtown and McCown, if I remember correctly. And those will stay the same size. I'm not looking at upsizing any of those.
Okay, since this is basically like the prior one, do I have a motion to approve?
Okay. Make a motion to authorize city engineer to begin work on the downtown sanitary sewer rehabilitation project.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I'll take Carol's, hers first. We have a motion and a second. This motion is debatable, amendable, and requires majority vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. And the motion carries. Item number 9, consideration possible action on authorizing the city engineer to begin work on the water plants number 2 and 3 bleach conversion project.
All right, good evening again. So in your budget for this year, what we've been talking about for a while is talked with the committee and with others is converting currently your water plants are disinfected, the water is disinfected with a chlorine gas, which is normal practice. It's used all over the state. It's normal to have it. However, the discussion has been in the past of switching that over to a liquid bleach as a safer product. Again, chemical prices are all over the place, so it used to be a little bit cheaper. Now it's about the same. Sometimes they can get a little bit cheaper depending on the bulk that they're getting. But mainly, the benefits of it is obviously you don't have a gaseous chlorine cylinder sitting on a site that can leak, etc. You have a tank with a liquid bleach in it, so you don't have the safety risks that are involved with it. So this is in your budget. The reason hasn't come up until now is we've been waiting on the water plant 3 improvements to finish up, so we don't have multiple contractors on top of each other. We should have the final startup of all that equipment and turnover in the next few weeks. Your next project that's coming up out at water plant 3 is your generator project, which that should be done, later this fall. So this kind of falls in line with that. Again, it's not something that we also want to do during the summer. So the goal is get it designed, get it bid, and then wait until it starts cooling down, because the plants will have to be offline for a period of time, obviously not at the same time, to do the switch over. So what you see in your packets is same thing as last. A couple things to note on the engineering. There's a handful of potential items that won't be needed that will bring that amount down. It will be based on the final decision on where we locate these. Do we put them on a slab with a kind of a lean-to structure over the top to protect it? Do we put it in more of an enclosed building? We included in the sub-cost is needing to have structural bolts, et cetera, to put those together. If we decided to go the more simple design, that will just not be needed. But we included it in here, so as we get through the design options and pricing options, we can talk through it just in case. And then on the price of construction, so we ran this by a handful of contractors, because again, like everything, prices are all over the place. So this is updated based on what actual contractors said that they would potentially bid on the project at this time. So estimated cost for the project was around $333,000. That is for both the water plant 2 and 3 switchovers.
And tell me again where water plant 2 and 3 are located.
Water plant 3 is on the north side of town, so it's Business Park Drive, just south of 1097 between 149 and Pleasant Morgan. And water plant 2 is the one that is back here on the worship at the end of Houston Street. So if you go Houston Street south, you'll dead end into the water plant.
Thank you.
So Chris, did you say that this might come in less? Is that what you said?
That's always the hope. All of these are estimates based on, conversation with the contractors and the bid prices that we see. All of these projects will be publicly bid, and so it's, subject to how the public bids come in. So, again, depending how things change, how the economy changes, it could come in less, it could come in more. Based on today, this is kind of our best estimate of what that cost would be.
Okay, probably because I'm old and that I really am not aware of the prices. Again, the 34,000 seems like, but
Correct,
seems high.
correct.
And the main reason that we're wanting to change over is
So-
because of the,
The main reason that we've discussed, with the committees in the past is really the safety. Is getting the gaseous chlorine off the sites. So you have a liquid bleach that is essentially your normal household bleach. You don't with gaseous chlorine. If you have a leak, you're required to keep respirators on the site. We have the windsocks at the facility, so you know which way the prevailing winds are blowing if there is a leak. Versus, a liquid bleach doesn't have those safety concerns with it. As far as effectiveness of providing disinfection, they're essentially the same. They're still just as effective. Bleach, the liquid does have more of a tendency to degrade over time versus the gas does. However, you're utilizing your system. You don't have a lot of stagnant water. It's more of, when you're looking at dead-end lines and things like that, as long as you're doing your flushing, it's a non-issue. And again, they're both commonly used throughout the industry.
Is there any major health issues to any city employees that are in that area?
Well, if there's a leak, obviously you're subject to a chlorine leak. It's a gas chlorine leak. Respirators are required. It is a health risk, and that's why there's eye wash stations, there's showers, there's the respirators on site at those facilities is required because of the gas.
So the projected $10,000 difference between plant 2 and 3 as far as bleach storage tank is just newness or
Size.
size?
Correct. The size of the tank, the size of the equipment is required.
Use the carbon black type tanks that are better
It
than they
is
used to be, so it's all about size. It's not a better grade or anything.
correct. It's all, both are the same. Both are being proposed 330 gallons at one plant versus I believe 200. Excuse me. I'll have to find my number. 330 gallons at water plant 2 versus 1,000 gallon tank at water plant 3.
Okay.
So that's your pricing differences. You produce way more water out of water plant 3 than water plant 2. So you use more chemicals, you need larger pumps, et cetera.
so in the agenda report, it said that we will not use the construction funds until next year.
Just with the timing of, and like Chris said, you don't want to bring these plants down in the heat of the summer, but if they can, final up the design stuff and then dovetail that in with the generator that's going out to water plant 3, although that, speaking for contractors, they should be able to install a generator if work's going on either. Not quite as invasive as it was or expansive as it was with this last construction, but we wouldn't be under construction before September 30th.
Okay. Any other discussion? Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to authorize city engineer to begin work on the water plant 2 and 3 bleach conversion project.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Second by Cheryl. This motion is debatable, minimal, requires majority vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, no. And the motion carries. Item number 10, consideration possible action on change order number 1 for GLO project 19-076-017-B366 related to sanitary sewer and drainage repairs along Martin Luther King Jr. Drive.
Right. This item is, so starting on page 46 of your packets, you'll see following pages of memo from us, along with the GLO required documents. What this is, so this project had two main components to it. So you had a sanitary sewer rehabilitation project, just like we talked about downtown, but this is focused on MLK, McGinnis, Baja Road, in that region, and then also a drainage improvements project that replaced culverts that haven't been done in the previous projects and regrade ditches to improve the drainage in the area. So during that process, during that process, there was a additional manhole that was found, so that was buried, and so there's a change order for finding that additional manhole, uncovering it, raising it back to the surface. There's also was a tree that's in the flow line of the ditch, and it needs to be removed in order to really complete the work. So those two items had an additional $7,500 cost associated with them. However, with the pre-televising that was done, so again, like we talked about, the downtime improvements were based on the televising results. This project included both phases in it, so it was the televising and the cleaning. So once they did the televising, they were able to adjust down a bunch of the estimated quantities, which led to a total change in the contract price of a negative $2,949. So overall, we had some additions of $7,500, but when you subtract everything else out, had a total decrease of $2,949. Doesn't change substantial completion, still expect to be complete this October with everything. And all of it is listed on here, unless you have any questions for me.
Chris, on McGinnis, I was over there the other day, and it looks like, are they going to put culverts on both sides of McGinnis?
Yes,
But there will be culverts on both sides, okay.
correct. Yeah, all the existing culverts that were on McGinnis, and then what was left was everything on the north or east side of MLK are all getting replaced and those ditches
I've
regraded.
seen the ones on MLK, but I was concerned about the fact that it looked like that they were just putting it on McGinnis on the north side, but I seen extra ones at the end, so.
Correct. It will be on both sides. Every house, every lot got a new culvert, and all the driveways were then paved with asphalt up to the property line. So
Okay.
everything within the right of way was asphalt.
Okay, any further questions? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve change order number 1 as presented.
We have a motion, need a second?
Second?
Second by Cheryl. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. And the motion carries. Item number 11, consideration and possible action regarding calling a public hearing on a request to replace a HUD code manufactured home at 15329 Liberty Street, Montgomery, Texas.
Mayor and council, if this sounds familiar, it's because you saw this a month ago. And failed to get with Nikki on getting the legal notice published. It was just an absolute oversight on my part. So after a sleepless night and reaching out to the applicant to make sure I wanted not to ruin their dream plans and moves in. So their home is still in the factory, so they don't have it yet. So what we're here tonight, what I'm here tonight to ask you to do is to recall that public hearing. And just as a preface for why we're doing it, to place a HUD manufactured home outside of a mobile home park, which right now Cedar Crest is the only one in the city, it has to have approval from city council. And so that's the reason behind why we're calling this public hearing to place this here. And so again, we ask you to call this for August the 9th at 6 p.m. here at City Hall, and we will absolutely ensure that the notice gets out and everything we can have.
Where is that actually on 149?
At 149, it is essentially, I would tell you that it was the last property before you leave the city limits on your left, but that's. the
You
city
have to
limits
look
are
over the
visible,
trees.
Right, so it,
Of I just saw it today, and they've got it, you know, a spot there, but there's trees blocking it from 149. But when you go around the other side where the park is, somewhere
Oh,
just
you can
north of
see
that
it
park,
close to
you can
Shirley
see it.
Nichols' house?
It's Rebecca Symington's house
Yes.
on 149.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Rebecca.
okay. Okay,
Yeah,
all right, gotcha. I was
So-
just curious.
yes.
Sorry, I didn't have a better description there. It's,
Well, that's a legal description.
If you're not looking for it, you wouldn't find it. I can
Right.
tell you.
It's a legal description.
Place a HUD code manufactured home at 15329 Liberty Street.
Have a motion by Cheryl, do I have a second?
I second it.
Excuse me, by Carol. Got too many C names here. And we have a first and a second. This motion is debatable, amendable, and requires majority vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. And the motion to set up a public hearing August 9th at 6 o'clock has been approved. Item number,
And you will have them,
It's
Come
already
to the
on its
meeting.
way to the courier tonight.
I'm sorry,
It's already on its way to the courier tonight.
and
but you will have the applicant
yes.
show up?
Absolutely, yeah, they're excited to move to town. I've spoken with both, Mike worked with one of the applicants.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, he worked with both of them over in Congress. They seem like wonderful people and excited to get them into the city.
Right.
Yeah.
And get them involved.
okay. Item number 12, consideration and possible action regarding the following ordinance. Ordinance of the City of Montgomery, Texas, authorizing the suspension of an effective date for an additional 90 days beyond the August 5th, 2022 effective date proposed by Energy Texas Incorporated in connection with its rate increase application entitled Application of Energy Texas Incorporated for Authority to Change Rates, filed on July 1st, 2022, authorizing participation with the Energy Texas Incorporated Service Area Cities Steering Committee, hiring of experts, authorizing the city's participation to the full extent permitted by law at the Public Utility Commission of Texas, requiring reimbursement of municipal rate case expenses, finding that the meeting complies with the Open Meetings Act, making other findings and provisions related to the subject, and declaring an effective date.
Mayor and Council, that was a long one, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
So what this ordinance is asking us to do, and this, again, this is, came to us through the law firm, which we've worked with for a number of years, and they essentially, make a living out of, working with Entergy on their cases for their rates at the PUC. And what this is doing is going to deny a proposed rate increase for 90 days. Because what they had asked, and effectively the timing that they notified cities of rate increase didn't give enough time to get to the Public Utility Commission on time, I suppose. And so what they're asking to do is suspend that rate for 90 days, and let them work it out at the PUC. Alan, am I close enough?
Yeah, that's basically it. The city has original jurisdiction over utility rates, but, most cities do not have, rate consultants on staff to really determine whether or not a particular rate is appropriate. So what is typically done is that you simply deny the rate increase or you delay the rate increase. It goes to the PUC where they have the staff that can actually do the work to determine whether or not the rates are justified. Usually the energy companies actually even ask you to deny it because they want it to go to the PUC too, because that's where, the professionals are that can deal with the application.
So you're our representative, and the whole group together is working together to buy time, basically, right?
Right. Yeah, the Lawton Law Firm is a firm that represents a coalition of cities in the Entergy area, and the costs are actually paid out of rate case expenses established by the PUC, so there's no direct cost to any of the cities.
So that 90-day would start July 1 when it was, or
Right.
August 5th? July.
That's right. And in all likelihood, you'll see another ordinance actually to deny it outright sometime soon.
Just keep saying deny, Ellen, we'll be in good shape.
Yeah.
So what would our motion? Do we have a motion to approve this ordinance as presented?
I will make the motion to approve the ordinance as presented.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by TJ. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone
Aye.
opposed, say no. And the motion carries. Item number 13, consideration possible action, the following resolution. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Montgomery, Texas, authorizing the signers for all City of Montgomery banking accounts with First Financial Bank and providing an effective date.
Mayor and council, you saw this item at your last meeting, and again, this is just updating the signature cards at the bank to include all of council as well as myself. Just as a reminder, all checks need 2 signatures. What this does is gives our finance office the ability to get someone out of town, or to just to involve all of you, so you all see and understand the kind of, expenses that are going out.
Okay. We need a motion.
Make a motion to adopt the resolution as presented.
Motion by
I'll second.
TJ and a second by Carol. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, no. And the motion carries. We have no items for executive session, is that correct? Okay, council inquiry.
What about Entergy and rolling blackouts? Do we know anything? Any kind of update?
I have not gotten on, but I will reach back out to Brittany. I think I may have, if I didn't mention it to you, our last rep for Entergy, our customer service rep, is no longer with Entergy, or he's no longer with our area. So we are in between representatives with Entergy, but I will get back with Brittany, get an answer from her on just kind of, if there's anything she can share that's not in the news article, or if there's any other demands or things that we can know about ahead of time.
And do we have a cooling station in the town of Montgomery?
We use City Hall with the police. We kind of have spoken several times. As picked that up just a few weeks ago about just ensuring that folks know that City Hall works. The library is also a place that's open that folks can use that have more to do than the council chamber. But certainly anyone that's here, so definitely let people know if you hear anyone at City Hall, they're certainly welcome up here to cool off for a while.
Any others? Okay, this morning, I thought it was going to be 9 o'clock, but in Commissioner's Court, I did get a chance to get from the city engineers, thank you for your help. I wanted to be factual with what I stated today, that we need help over here in West County. We have a great need to help with traffic. And so that went well. Appreciate your words. You were forthcoming, and all I did is basically read it. And so thank you for that. We look forward to the 26th, building a profile with our consultation group will be coming. And we'll build a profile for that next city administrator. Take all opportunities to help people, including students and teachers. They're out there. Help some students with supplies, clothes, whatever. It's out there. It's not necessarily a chamber thing, but we've just been sharing that, and the city's been doing some things as well to help citizens. So help people keep cool as we possibly can, and help the folks who I can testify, high anxiety right before school. And so kids need supplies, and teachers need supplies as well. So help where you can. All right, need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
By TJ, second?
Second.
And that was not debatable. We are adjourned.